Fearless. Provocative.
Straight talking. We will say it like it really is.
With dignity and respect.
Committed to free speech and common sense.
Upbeat and entertaining.
Straight talking and direct.
We may agitate each other and you.
Heartfelt and passionate.
Thought-provoking, provocative and controversial.
Fearless and truthful.
Welcome to The Pledge, the programme committed to straight talking and fearless debate. In this week of extraordinary departures, it's a first for The Pledge too. This show will be dedicated to one topic and one topic alone, and I'm sure you don't need me to tell you what that is. In this special edition, June will claim it's not Brexit until the fat lady sings. Greg's got a message for a group of middle-aged shabbly drinkers in Hampshire. Michelle's mourning the loss of a true statesman. Well, Nick is going to agree with me, aren't you, Nick? So, here we go. And I want to start with a confession. After months of deliberation and changing my mind daily, I eventually voted to leave the European Union. I'll duck now. When it looked like the Remain camp had won, I wished them well and I went to bed. When I woke to see the result, I was blown away to see my social media overflowing with aggressive abuse. Apparently, at best, all of us Leave voters are thick, ill-informed and ignorant. At worst, we are all apparently racist, xenophobic, and we've ruined the country for every generation to come. I hate the way that people that I love and care about, people who I know have got good hearts and voted Brexit, are currently being abused by people I also love. Why can't the Remainers just accept the vote, respect the people who made it, and just crack on with making our country the best it can be?
I mean, what amazed me about this is the passion that people are feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, it has given free rein to some pretty nasty people to be quite racist, which shouldn't be allowed. But, I mean, mainly, I know families that aren't talking.
Yeah, me too.
You know, kids and parents.
Yeah.
It's not. Thank God we all at least voted the same way, so you can still have tea in our hands together. Because I know people who aren't like that. But I have to say, it will die. But nearly a week on, I'm still angry.
I'm furious.
And I mean, there are people.
Angry about what? And furious about what?
I'm angry.
Lies.
I'm angry that we were lied to.
Yeah.
I'm angry that all sorts of stories were put out that weren't true.
So, Nick, what do you think?
Well, it was very narrow, but I was with you. I decided to vote leave. And I admit on Friday, particularly when I tapped into the discontent among young people, for a second I thought, oh, what have I done to the country I love? Yeah. But if I was ever in any doubt that, respectfully, it was right to leave the EU, it was the EU that I was voting about, it was when Jean-Claude Juncker, that unelected overlord, was asked by journalists what happens, and he walked past the media with his fingers in his ears in front of all the cameras. If that doesn't sum up how the EU treats all its member states, nothing. There was nothing more graphic. Let me finish it. Nothing was more graphic than that illustration.
You're prepared to sacrifice the future economic growth of this country because Claude Juncker does that.
Right, Greg, economic growth. Can I refer you to the front page of the Financial Times? Front page of the Financial Times. The FTSE 100 has erased its post-Brexit referendum. It's climbed 3.6%. It's actually stronger now than it was before the damn thing started.
FTSE 100 is nothing to do with economic growth. That's gambling.
And it's mainly international companies on the FTSE.
That's right.
The British companies have been hammered by this.
And utterly unrepresentative.
I'm glad to see that the hostility is here. Because this hostility has been going on.
All they had to give, June Sarpong, if Juncker and all his cronies had given an extra inch, or should that be 2.4 centimetres, in those negotiations in Brussels, I would have probably been on your side. But the hostility, the arrogance with which they treated Britain, with its valid concerns about sovereignty, they had it coming to them. They are the architects of these problems.
The bit I don't quite understand, which no one seems to have discussed yet, is assuming we pay in 150 million a week or whatever it is, right?
Well, apparently 350.
No, but it wasn't. No, let's forget that. Let's say there was a real figure going in every week. Who's going to pay that in the future? Yeah. I don't think.
It's not our worry.
Well, it is because we still want the single market. It's still our worry.
I think it is because it could actually. What it could lead to is the beginnings of the breakup of the whole thing.
Great. Oh, please God. and then it reforms, and then it then reforms as a trade bloc,
Yeah, that's
as
what
a
I would
trade
like to
with
see.
Britain as one of the key architects.
Yeah.
And we worry about trade, we worry about single markets. We do not have an organisation that actually limits the power of my hairdryer and how loud my lawnmower's going. What's that got to do with trading?
That's not what people are concerned about, Nick.
Right,
That is not
let
what
me
people
bring
are
this back to
concerned
my
about.
topic, because I want to show you this clip here, because my point here is the hatred and the lack of respect that people have got for the decision that we made. So if you look at this clip, this is people abusing Boris Johnson when he left his house, when they're calling him, as you were about to hear, scum, traitor. Now that has given me goose pimples, right?
I wouldn't
Because
worry
it
about
makes
it.
me so angry,
Don't
because I just think we have been given a vote, right? So we could choose this option or this option. Some of us voted this one, some of us voted that one. How dare people, for those of us that have voted this way, think that it's okay to attack us, call us names,
But
call
Michelle,
us
that's both sides, so I don't see what you're trying to say. That's both sides who are doing this, and
No,
it's not
I don't
right.
agree.
And
It's not right
if
at all.
anyone deserves it, it's Boris.
Boris Johnson. And
Because Boris didn't
Greg, you're a
believe...
responsible adult.
No, let him
You
finish.
can't be seen to support
No, Nick,
No,
something
but
like
Nick,
that.
let him finish.
Boris deserves to be criticised.
He does.
Now, it
Not
shouldn't
like
be
that.
it shouldn't be abuse, but he deserves to be criticised because Boris
In proper
with
channels.
and thankfully he's not going to win the Conservative Party leadership. So his whole calculation has failed.
Fail. And can I just add to that? So what we've just seen there, nobody is responding to Michael Gove in that way, because Michael Gove genuinely believed, like you, that we should leave the European Union. Boris Johnson, that was a calculated move.
I
That
don't agree with
man
that.
wrote 2 articles. He wrote 2 articles, one for Remain, one for Leave, before he decided which one he was going to go with, which was going to be the best career option the next morning. So the reason people are responding to him like that is because of what he's done.
No, I don't
what
respond like that
the
because of the
fallout
outcome of
is
the votes, I
unbelievable
do.
just for one person's career. I've
But
got
also
nothing
remember,
to
he'd
say.
been mayor of London for 8 years.
Hello.
London voted overwhelmingly to stay in.
what a betrayal.
Even if you can say the whole country, it's not in its interest.
But guys,
to be,
right?
to be in, it certainly is
Certainly
in
in
London's
London's
interest.
interest.
I agree.
So what has he been doing? And it was opportunism.
It's
He is the
opportunism.
great opportunist, and thankfully the Tory party aren't going to fall for
I
him.
don't need to tell you that England, and I mean deliberately mean England, Greg. England is not London. You'll know that probably as well,
Yeah,
if not
we
more.
agree with
We
you
have to
on
go
that.
to Hull. Who was Andy Burnham said there's too much Hampstead, not enough Hull. That was his
We
actual.
agree. So we agree with
but
you
that
on
is what.
that.
And look, I love you,
But
but
hang
you
on,
are
when-
part of the London media elite.
Yeah.
No,
you don't
I'm
get
not.
out there. You don't go
Yeah.
to Red
Oh, yes,
Car.
I-
You don't
Hey,
go to
Mike,
Cleveland.
do you
These
know-
are the people
are
that
you-
voted leave.
Do you know you don't spend every day of my life
course I
with
don't.
me?
No, of course I don't spend
You
every
could
day.
do that.
Let me tell you.
Well, that's another conversation.
Let me tell you about Hull. So I am from Hull.
Yeah.
And I also live in London, and I have been blown away by the divide between, like, I've got friends in London, none of them voted to leave, and I've got, obviously, family and friends in Hull, none of them voted to stay. And when I talk to my London friends, some of which are now not talking to me as a result of what I've done by voting Brexit, their concerns, they spoke to me, they said, oh my God, my house prices have just crashed, my pension's taken a hit, my investments have taken a hit. These are friends of mine that earn hundreds of thousands of pounds a year who look at this kind of Brexit as a direct effect on them. Then I look at my friends in Hull, and they feel so strongly about, it's almost like a haves and a have-nots, and it's massive
Michelle,
divide.
We agree with that, but the sad thing, the heartbreaking thing, the thing that just breaks my heart is those very people that you're talking about in Hull who voted out are the ones that, as is always the case, are going to be worse hit.
June,
They're the
Sunderland
ones that
with the
haven't
Nissan
had
factory.
to-
Sunderland with the Nissan factory voted
And
out.
look what could happen to them. Look
What-
how many jobs
Listen,
could
already-
be lost
Oh,
because they
God.
were
No, there
sold
could
a
be nuclear-
lie.
if my granny had
they
wheels,
were
she'd be a
sold an
bus.
absolute
think
lie.
people realise what the impact is going
They
to
didn't.
be. It's a massive divorce, and I
Oh.
think we'll be trying to sort it out in the next 8 to 10 years. I think the hardest hit will be the small to
Will be the-
medium-sized
and
businesses.
poor people.
And people should be concerned about the jobs, because whilst they bicker and sort it out, it's going to be chaos.
OK.
It will be chaos.
It's over to me. I'm ashamed to be English this week. I'm ashamed of all sorts of people, David Cameron, Jeremy Corbyn, Boris Johnson. But in particular, I'm ashamed of my generation, the over-60s, who voted so overwhelmingly in favour of leaving. As one Warwick University student posted on Facebook, she said, "The generation before us have had everything: work, houses, stability, peace, and they've taken it all away from us. The old have voted for a future that the young didn't want." But in particular, I am ashamed of the well-off older people of this country. Here's an email I received from a friend in Hampshire. "The day after the vote, I was in my local pub where 8 wealthy retirees sat toasting a great new future with a couple of bottles of expensive Chablis, while the 4 20-somethings working behind the bar looked on in amazement. Finally, I am ashamed that Nigel Farage and his ilk won by conning older people that we can go back to an England of yesteryear, an imagined England which never really existed anyway."
Greg, I like you, but I could not disagree with your point more. And you summed up
You don't
my
have to
feelings.
start by saying you like me.
You always know it's going badly when
Because
anybody ever says
I
that.
haven't felt that about anyone this week who voted for Brexit. I haven't felt I like them. I shall overcome it, but up to now I haven't.
You summed up, and in your own intro then, what has happened here. You've just said that you're ashamed of your generation, and you saw this student writing on Facebook saying, "These people have taken my future away." That right there is the problem. All of us, old or young or in the middle, had a choice and an opportunity to vote. The older people could be bothered to do so. The younger people could not be asked. I'm sorry, they sat there, they went on Facebook, they could not be bothered. They did not come out and vote. It's estimated at around 30% of young people could be bothered to have a vote. And they sit in their houses and they go on their Facebook, they hurl abuse at people like me and the oldest. And quite frankly, my message is this: if you don't want your future ruined, get off your backside, get your pen or your pencil, get yourself down to the voting booth and make a difference. It's not an entitlement that you have this future. You have to work for it and you have to make it happen.
Well, it's true. I mean, I think my figures, 47% of the under 35s voted and 83% of the over 65s voted. So we are out of Europe because of the vote of older people.
No.
Now let me finish. Let me finish.
Because
There's two groups there. There's one group who I have some sympathy with, and I think the older people who live in what have become fairly deprived towns in this country, we are all responsible for, and we have not done something about it. Right through, I know you're a big Labour supporter, but right through the Labour Party, they believe that as the country grew, there would be a trickle down.
And there wasn't.
Didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
And the biggest question that's facing us in this country as a result of this voting going forward is, how do we ensure that the wealth of this country is more fairly shared?
100%. And can I just add to Greg's point and to pick up on yours, in terms of young people? I completely buy that the youth turnout was low, but there are a number of reasons as to why that happened. First being, in 2014, when the whole way people were registered to vote changed with the individual electoral registration. That was completely out of order. With the old system, the head of the household registered every eligible voter. With this new system, you have to register individually and you also have to supply your NI number. Then this government...
What's the problem with that?
Let me finish. Then this government also stopped universities block registering people. So that meant 1.4...
Oh, my God, you had to do a bit of work.
Oh, please.
You had to do a bit of work to vote.
Nick.
Oh, it's so wrong.
That meant 1.4 million young people were taken off the register, and then yes. Oh...
Why bleat and moan? It's a perfectly fair system. Everybody above the age of about 50 or 60 seem to know.
Then this referendum was held while universities
you're
were
clutching
off.
for excuses,
so people had
you
to
guys.
re-register.
No, but come on, Nick.
No,
You
but
lost.
it was completely against
Take it from me.
young people.
You lost.
No,
Just
we did
accept it.
not. We did not. It
You
wasn't
didn't
against
lose?
young people.
Nick,
And it was
do
not
you
about
really
women.
think it's right that the future of this country has been decided by people over 65.
Yeah, probably.
It was divided.
Because in most instances...
Who won't be here for
If you allow me 50 as well, 50, they're the wealth creators, they're the bosses, they're the people with the life experience.
It wasn't decided by 50.
Well, I'm saying if you'll allow me 50s, hold on, they're the wealth creators, they're the bosses, they're the ones who create the businesses, they're the ones who have the experience, they're the ones who go on to be the High Court judges. I'll probably take their view against the people who watch the Kardashians.
But the people who watch the Kardashians are the ones who are going to have to live with this.
By the way, you see, you're like Cameron. This is apocalyptic scenario, financial Armageddon. Maybe it won't be like that.
No, I just think it's really sad because the 17 to 24-year-olds didn't go out and vote. And I
but
believe
for a
that...
number of reasons.
Well,
the
yes,
system was
reasons.
set up against them.
Yeah, but, I disagree with that. But the other thing is, as well, is we have the biggest music festival, Glastonbury, happening last week. Why couldn't we have had some areas to go and vote there as well?
Because people needed to register
the amount of people that are at the music festival, it would have been good to have that.
Let me ask those who voted out.
It's not easy to do.
And I can understand the people, some of the reasons for voting out.
Yeah, I completely understand.
But do you think it is economically in the interest of this country to be out?
Now, I hate answering a question with a question, but what is going to be the economic pitfall of coming out? If we put our own trade deals together, if Europe is radically...
Tell me, that happens overnight.
Greg, why have we sold this generation out?
The truth is, we don't know.
Thank you.
The truth is, we don't know.
Well said.
Yeah. Therefore, there is a significant risk. Whereas we knew where we were, we knew the growth we've had. We've gone through some pretty good years, although it's been disproportionately distributed.
Yeah.
But the real issue is we don't know.
That's
and it could well be that you voted for something that, in economic terms, is going to be very costly for this country.
Well,
fifth biggest economy in the world?
No,
growing,
six
growing
at the
GDP.
moment. Six because of your decision.
They do not have a plan, and the lies as well. What do you think about the lie?
Yeah.
What lies? Oh, what about the health service? That was terrible, of course. But I mean,
so there were lies on both sides.
There were lies.
There were no lies. There remains.
Oh my God!
There were no lies. There were no lies. All of the economic, everything that was predicted is happening and worse.
I'll put it to you for the third time.
There were no lies.
World War III. You believe we'll have World War III?
The Prime Minister did not say there would be.
Terrorists coming in, the ease of terrorists coming in. You believe that, do you?
That is totally possible. If we lose a European arrest warrant, that is totally possible.
How will that stop it? The French have already said we'll keep the border at Calais and they'll keep their border at St Pancras and everything else.
But that's not the only form of terrorism.
You know, we talked earlier about how the anger that you got upset about. The people who injected the anger were the politicians because they raised it to such a bar. That's why families are divided.
No, it was the likes of the Farages that injected
I agree.
the anger.
No, I agree. But there was plenty.
Disgusting campaign.
What? And yours wasn't?
No. Our problem was we were too honest. That was our problem.
George Osborne with that Brexit budget was a terrible miscalculation.
That I'll give you.
And it talked the markets down.
That I'll give
and I tell you what, that was a
that.
big contributor to me voting out.
I'll give you that one.
OK, let's go back. I mean, to sum up, because we're obviously not going to agree much today on anything. I don't think.
Can I ask you to
just
agree with me about this young people thing? Because
I think it's a great shame that the young people didn't turn out at the same rate as older people.
do you think
they've got more things to do with their time than an awful lot of older people.
We have to take into account that the system was stacked up against them.
It was.
It really was.
Because they had to go and...
The way you register to vote is not how young people today have to register.
June, it would have taken them 2 minutes.
Oh,
bearing in mind...
Yes, but that's not the point. The point is, in the end, it is a shame that the young didn't turn out en masse to vote. But what it meant was older people actually decided what we were now going to do for the future 20 years of this country, and I think that's to be regretted.
And who have the young people got to blame for that?
Well, that's not the
point.
Tory government.
It is the point.
No, that's not.
Answer me that question. Who have they got to
Tory
blame?
government. That's
they've got to blame themselves because they didn't come out.
They've got to blame themselves.
I know, but that's not the point. The point is,
it is the point.
I've long believed that we have got a real danger in our society of the young increasingly disliking the old because the old have had it so good and they're not going to have it so good.
And
actually, this is going to happen.
Get into the real world and make it happen.
That's not the point. The point is that's not what happens. You don't get people to go and sign up to vote because of that. That's not what they do. But what you've got to work out is is it in the best interest of this society that the old have decided what's going to happen for the next 25 years? And it can't be.
Right, guys.
Honestly,
It's over to me. David Cameron's resignation is a tragedy for this country. Given the result of the referendum, his decision is understandable. But I believe he went too quickly. And I also believe he should stay. The country is now in crisis. There's no political leadership. People are turning against each other. And what the country needs right now is a statesman. And in his resignation speech, that's exactly what he showed himself to be.
I held nothing back. I was absolutely clear about my belief that Britain is stronger, safer and better off inside the European Union. And I made clear the referendum was about this and this alone, not the future of any single politician, including myself. The British people have made a choice. That not only needs to be respected, but those on the losing side of the argument, myself included, should help to make it work. I love this country, and I feel honoured to have served it. And I will do everything I can in future to help this great country succeed. Thank you very much.
Even Boris Johnson and Michael Gove says Cameron should be remembered as a brave and great leader. But in these extraordinary times, if people can call for a second referendum, I don't think it's too much to call on David Cameron and ask him to reconsider. Your country needs you.
I've never voted Tory in my life, but I've always been quite a fan of David Cameron, who I think is actually a good, middle-of-the-road Liberal Tory, really.
Yes,
and I have liked some of the things he's done. But he'll go down and be remembered for one thing and one thing only. This is his equivalent of the Iraq War for Blair.
Is.
And his great mistake was in an attempt to make sure the Tories won the election to say he would have the referendum. He should never have done. Referendum is not a way for deciding these sorts of things. It's a terrible mistake.
Sorry,
and
Greg,
he will only be remembered for that.
Why is it wrong for people to decide their own fate? You've just said referendum
because
is wrong.
Because it's too difficult.
Sorry, the people aren't smart enough.
No, it's
the people aren't smart enough.
I have to agree with Greg. This decision was too big for the general public, and I'm not saying that they're stupid or anything like that.
Well,
but
what are you
when
saying,
you vote for a Prime Minister, you expect him to make these decisions for us. Scottish referendum not being part of the UK, that is a good referendum for the people to decide. But the European Union, the biggest question on Google the following day was, what is the EU? Does that not tell you something?
Honestly,
it doesn't tell you something, but I think that he has been amazing for this country. He got us out of a recession.
Yes.
We were almost bust.
Yes.
I think that if you look back on all the other Prime Ministers, like Brown sold the gold and Blair got us into war, I think he has been the best leader we've had for many generations. That's my thoughts.
But, I mean,
I wish he could come back. I wish people could say, we had it good. Why did we break it? We were good. We were recovering the business of this economy.
It's too late. And in the end, politics is about major decisions.
Yeah.
And if you look back, we remember Anthony Eden. We don't say anything about other than Suez. And we'll look back on Blair. We'll only say about, and this will be. This is the guy who took us out of the EU.
But come on, we're not all perfect. I mean, are you perfect in your job?
No,
are you perfect in your job?
Okay,
he made some errors. He's not perfect. He's a human being. But I think he loved this country, and I think he did a good job. And it would be great if he could just come back, but that's not going to happen.
I think all of us, certainly when we first saw the Prime Minister with his catch in his voice at the end there, you had to have a heart of stone not to feel for them. And in fact, I noticed you did even now, and you're not necessarily a signed-up fan.
No,
but he doesn't even have the confidence of his own party now. And he did achieve a lot, and Greg's absolutely... Along with Nick Clegg, to put that coalition government together...
So who do you think would do a better job?
I honestly don't know at the moment. Probably maybe Gove, maybe Johnson, maybe May. I've no damn idea. But there's just no mandate for him. He had to go. And where Greg is right, and suspending which way I voted, he is the man who allowed a dust-up in his own backyard, the Conservative Party, to define the future of Britain's relationship with Europe and indeed possibly the future of the United Kingdom. And that was his handling. So you are right there, Greg.
It's a big
would do a better job.
Well, believe it or not, I actually agree with Nick on this one. I think that, Cameron should have shown real leadership. When UKIP did as well as they did in the European elections, he should have then actually analysed why. And if he had done that and discovered with everything that Michelle
Yeah.
was talking, how working class people were feeling in this country, and addressed those issues as opposed to austerity cuts, we wouldn't be in this place.
We wouldn't have needed a referendum.
We wouldn't have needed a referendum.
I don't think he would have resigned as well if he stepped back and let both sides do the campaigning.
He had to go. The fact that he got us into this mess meant he had to go. And throughout this campaign, I completely agreed with David Cameron. You know, I am not a David Cameron supporter, but for the Remain campaign, I was. And I was so impressed by how he ran the campaign. I thought he showed real leadership. But at the end of the day, with the result that we got, even if we had won, he still had to go. Because we shouldn't have been in this place. We should not have had a referendum.
Look, everyone
in the
has
first place.
voted now, and we've got to go
But if I
onwards
had
and
to
upwards.
choose, I'm not a Conservative, so, you know, my opinion means nothing. But if I had to choose, I would choose Theresa May, because that is a grown-up. We need somebody with a steady head to help get us out of this mess.
I agree. I'm a business person. I take risks every day. And we've got to go on with it now, onwards and upwards. But I am petrified about what's about to happen, because I don't think that... You know, we've voted. It's the unknown. What's going to happen next?
So, Michelle,
I really think business is going to have a massive impact.
So you talk about business. Let me ask you this, because I was with you. So on, I think it was Friday morning when Cameron resigned, my first thought was, what are you doing? You've got us into this mess. You can't just, like, abandon us now. And that was my initial thought. I was with you. I was thinking, you've got to stay, you've got to see it through. But then when I stepped back and I thought about it, I thought, actually, that's just not possible. So, as you said, you're in business. If you imagine that you've got a business, a huge business that's responsible for so much.
Millions of
jobs. And then you've got a CEO at the top of that doesn't agree with a decision that's just been made. You wouldn't want that CEO to take that business into that next chapter if he or she was fundamentally opposed to the direction of travel that you have to go into. It would make no sense. So we're talking about business, and if you literally stripped it back, you would need someone at the helm who truly agreed with the direction of travel and was passionate and was going to do the right thing.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you also listen to your people as well. No, so I think he would have said, well, the people have voted this way, and I think he would adjust to it and he would do the best interest. At the end of the day, he loves our country, and that's it. But let me just tell you something. I'm in the manufacturing business. Well, I sold Ultimo last year. And our CTPs, our critical time paths, are 9 months. OK? So in manufacturing, you're not going to see the impact of all of this. When you're starting to sell to France, to Germany and everything else, we're not going to see the impact until CTP, the next year, when you get the manufacturing orders in, you're not going to see any of it. And that's when the real problems are going to start.
But if you come back to the Tory party, I mean, I've long believed the Tory party should have split a long time ago over Europe. It's such a big issue, and instead he called a referendum. Instead of saying, look, there are two parties here, let's have, big issues should split political parties.
I agree.
And as the Labour Party, I suspect will split in the next few months. So big issues should split political parties. The Tories tried to hold it all together, and Cameron tried to hold it all together by having a referendum.
OK, June, so who do you think should take over?
I think we need someone to steady the ship. I want a grown-up, Theresa May.
OK, and Nick?
I would suggest Roy Hodgson or Glenn Hoddle in a caretaker role.
OK, Michelle?
Probably Theresa May.
OK, and Greg?
Well, I'd rather it was nobody from the Conservative Party. But given that it's likely to be one of them, and given that, I'm glad that Boris isn't there, I suspect it will be Theresa May.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Anyway, it's me next, and I'm saying there's a way out of this mess. It's not too late. You don't have to do this. Vote Leave. What have you done? We are now witnessing the fallout of Brexit. A tumbling pound, falling markets, the UK's credit rating downgraded, a political vacuum at the head of government, opposition coups, backtracking on absurd claims. Oh, the potential breakup of the United Kingdom. I am exhausted. Embittered youngsters, an open season on immigrants. Yet this all can be stopped. Brexit does not need to happen. The leaders of Vote Leave must stand up and admit they made a mistake. They must admit they were wrong to dismiss the economic warnings, which have now come to pass. Whoever is the next Prime Minister, their first job must be to say they will not trigger Article 50. Do the honourable thing. Choose saving the union over saving face. History will be very unkind to you if you don't.
June.
Yes.
2 words. Define democracy.
Well, people have the right to choose.
So when they've taken that decision, and when it's accepted by the Prime Minister, and it's accepted by the person who led the campaign that he effectively lost, you can gainsay that?
Well, it's fine if they are choosing something that was true.
No, it's fine if they're choosing what you wanted.
No. They were sold an absolute lie.
June.
Nick Ferrari, you have one of the most popular radio shows in this country, and you know most of the people who voted out, and I'm not talking about the Michelles or the Hughes of this country. Most people who voted out because they thought they were going to get an extra £350 million to spend on the NHS, and that there would be the end of immigration and the end of freedom of movement. They are not going to get any of those two things. They have been sold an absolute lie. And I think once people realise the truth and we see it happening, there are going to be a lot of people changing their minds. And the honourable thing for the people who sold them that lie to do is to come out right and say, you know what, we lied. And this is the truth of what you're getting.
I agree with you.
Thank
I think
you,
people have been sold up the river, and you're right.
Disgusting.
When people make their decision, you have to stand by that. But I think the whole thing is a mess.
A mess.
Right. Do you honestly think... You talked about your concern for the financial markets. You did too, Michelle.
Yep.
Can you imagine the message this would send to the global financial community that Britain has decided to go this way? Actually, no, do you know what? We don't quite like it and we got it wrong, so we'll go this way in such short order.
What do you think the message that we're sending to the world when
do
our leaders are barefaced
of what's happened in the
liars?
lies, and people make mistakes. Look, I have to say that when you buy a business, when you take over a business, you have
Michelle,
a plan.
This is not buying a business.
It's kind of similar.
You can compare
It's kind of
really
similar.
not.
We're
It's
changing.
really
We're changing the
I
UK
am
and the
staggered.
setup, and we're coming out of the EU. You have to have a plan. Fail to plan, plan to fail.
Ladies.
You've got to have a strong
do you
business plan, and there's no
do you love
plan.
this country?
I love this country.
Do you love this country?
I absolutely
Do you not
love
have
it. I want
faith?
us to
That's why
Listen
this
to me,
breaks my
please.
heart.
Do you not have faith in the people in this country to show the ingenuity, the entrepreneurship, the skill, the battle, the will to move it forward? I'm going to explain later that I think the EU is bust.
Do you know what I thought I had faith in? I thought I had faith in our politicians to at least be a little bit honourable. But when you have two of the most leading politicians in this country, I expect that from Nigel Farage. I don't expect much from him. But from Boris Johnson and Michael Gove, telling absolute barefaced lies, disgusting.
But June, it's not good. I mean, I agree with you, but it's not going to happen.
What, Brexit?
It might.
No, Brexit will happen. But,
It might.
But your way out of it isn't going to happen. Now, it is. I'm still convinced that we won't leave. I'm still convinced that there are other ways.
And so what do you think, then?
Well, I do genuinely think at some stage we will have an election on the issue, long before we've gone.
Yeah.
And then I think a government will follow what the Liberals have done already, and I think Labour will say, which says we will have a second referendum.
Yeah. Oh.
When
Based on the truth.
when we know the terms.
Yeah.
Because actually, there's no doubt about it, Nick, we were told lies.
In 1961, we were the ones that begged to let us in.
The world has moved on a lot.
We were turned down, was it 3 times? We were finally accepted.
Again, I'm going to
We've
explain...
managed to get business going, and I am petrified about what's about to happen. I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen.
But it's already got better in the last 7
But
days.
I want to delve into that. Wait, let me finish. I want to delve into that more because I went to see the senior team at the stock exchange.
I'm sure they were crying into their champagne.
To ask them to explain to me why it was getting better. And that's because a vast chunk of the businesses on the FTSE are international businesses. British businesses are being hammered, which is why there's a pause in trading on Barclays, which is why there's a pause in trading on
that was
British
all done. That's all
Airways.
been
They are being hammered.
That's all been lifted.
Businesses are being
You've
hammered.
just seen Jaguar Land Rover
Nick,
today say they're going to carry on working.
No, if you go into a
Well, just don't say
supermarket,
no,
if you go into a supermarket today, you will see the flowers from, say, Holland, and you'll see the cherries from somewhere else. I'm just saying that what's
Because
going
they're
to happen
subsidised.
when we have to start buying those products and bringing them into the UK.
At
What's
full
going to happen
price.
to the street
You honestly
traders? What's
think...
going to happen?
Yeah.
Prices
Are you talking about
going
tariffs
to go
now?
up.
Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
yes.
Prices are going to go up.
So all Britain does then is a tit for tat. They say, right,
Oh, for
tariffs...
God's sake,
is
we'll never
tariffs,
sort
and
this out.
you think Audi wouldn't kick Angela Merkel's door down? We can't sell cars into Britain anymore.
Well, if
we're their
people
second
don't
biggest,
have
we're their
jobs,
second
Nick
biggest
Kareem,
market.
Nick Ferrari, if people don't have
Prices are
jobs,
gonna
how
go
are
up.
they going to buy cars?
Prices will go up.
The truth is, Nick, none of us know. And that's why it was a bad decision.
Yeah.
We just don't know. You could be right.
But I thought you were Mystic Greg.
You could be right. I wish I was. You could be
ring
right,
to
but
it.
I doubt it. I think all the experts, you know, the very people that you didn't want to know about, and the out lot didn't want to know about, all the experts say actually our growth will decline as a result of coming out.
Yeah, we're
now,
absolutely.
we don't know for certain that's the case, but was the risk worth
It
taking?
wasn't.
No, it
it
was
wasn't
not.
broken. I know
And
that there was
Michelle,
issues we
can I-
had to
can I
sort out,
interrupt
but this
quickly?
is just a nightmare.
Back to Greg's point about dismissing experts, let's have a look at what Michael Gove had to say on that at the time.
I think the people in this country have had enough of experts with organisations from acronyms
The people of this
saying...
country have had enough of experts.
With,
What do you
from
mean by
organisations
that?
with acronyms saying that they know what is best and getting it
people
consistently
of
wrong.
this country
Because
have had enough of experts.
these people are the same ones who've got consistently wrong.
This is proper
what's
Trump
happening.
politics, this, isn't it?
No, it's actually a faith in
It's
the...
Oxbridge Trump.
Well, it's a faith, Faisal, in the British people to make the
Blind-
right decision.
blind faith?
I don't think it is.
Well, all I'll say is they were right on this, and if Michael Gove does become Prime Minister, I bet you he'll be calling those same experts to help him get out of this mess. Anyway, what did you want to say, Michelle?
But we need to be very careful, because the reason that we've had this referendum in the first place is because the working classes, the normal people outside of London bubbles, they have not been listened to for an incredibly long time, right? Yeah. They weren't listened to. UKIP came along, it kind of got a hold of things, and then we was in a position where we had to have a referendum. Now, if you turn around and you say you've had this referendum and now we're just not going to follow through, what do you think will happen to those people? Hold on, let me finish. What do you think will happen to those people who was not listened to, that UKIP took a hold of, that cast their vote, and then you turn around to them and you go, do you know what, you bunch of muppets, you just all xenophobic and racist, we're not going to listen to you, we'll push on. What do you think those people will do?
No, because the difference is they were sold a lie. So if it was true, if what they had been promised was actually going to happen and they voted for that, fair enough, we will accept it.
But you're assuming
that they have been lied to.
And Michelle,
Sorry,
I have
Greg,
to say as well, they're the kind of people that prices are going to rise for them. They're going to find it even more difficult, and they should fear for their jobs as well.
But also, you've got to be careful of talking about London, because you're making the assumption that London is all rich, that every the streets have got. It's not
The London
true.
I'm from is
There are some
UK
very
map
poor
of how
parts of
people
London
voted.
who still voted to stay in. And
Brixton is poor. They voted
I mean, you're dead
overwhelmingly
right.
to stay.
As we said earlier, you're dead right that there are parts of this country that have been left behind.
But it's
and
not
we
just about...
But
not
I've yet
because
to
of the
see a
EU.
political solution for that from any political party
Yeah.
about what they're going to do about that.
And you know
those
what
are not
I'm
EU
sick to
policies,
death.
those are national policies that have failed them.
But
Let's
it's not
get
just
that
about the
right.
economic
What I'm
either.
sick to death of we had the Scottish referendum, then we had the general election, then we had the EU referendum, and now again we're going to have another probably Scottish referendum. I'm sick to death of it. The country has to come together. We have to work together. We have to get more positive mental attitude, get the economy going, get business going, and we have to all get on. And it's just another Scottish referendum.
No, I agree.
It's just too much. The bickering, everything has to... We
might
need
have
stability.
to get on. You might have to, but we can't get on now. It's time for a Plexit or a Pledge Exit. I might be on last, but believe me, it's worth waiting for, as I've got a much-needed reality check for you all. Why are Brexits like buses? Well, you wait all this time and then two come along together, or at least an England exit, of course, from the Euros. Greg Dyke, what went wrong?
Oh, if I only knew. I mean, we didn't have a bad squad. We had quite a good squad. We went out there, we played OK, in the first three games, and then we were terrible in the fourth, and I think everybody knows that. I mean, from behalf of the FA, I just say I'm sorry. Our fans were brilliant out there. and on the day we froze.
Do you know what I thought on a human level? And I know I'm probably not reflecting the mood because there's a lot of anger out there. These players are paid a lot of money. The managers pay 3.5 million. Why don't they do a better job? Looking at them on a human level, that second half, their heads had gone. They didn't actually seem to have a plan. I'm wondering whether they need... And please, I'm not normally one for touchy-feely group hugs, but maybe they need some kind of psychiatric help because they know the nation's waiting to jump on them. They know how red in tooth and claw the media will be. Right. These young blokes perhaps need a bit of help when it's not going their way.
I think that's probably right.
But they must get a bit of coaching before it.
No, it's like psychiatric
yes,
coach.
They get some.
Like
but I think probably we're going to need more in the future. I mean, the whole setup that the EFF put in at St George's Park encourages all that.
This is this new facility.
Yeah, and we need to integrate more of the national team into that. But I do think that actually they froze. They were scared.
Yes.
Wow. And I don't... You know, you take good players, good manager and all the rest of it, and suddenly on a day they froze. And it was terribly sad.
And address this line that the sports journalists would have us believe there's no pride. They don't want to play for their country.
I don't
they
believe
want to earn 300
if you'd gone in, if you'd seen those players on getting on the coach and coming back to the hotel as I did, they were absolutely devastated. Now, they've got to pick themselves up again.
Yeah.
But you see, it's not like a club side, isn't it? And I remember Alex Ferguson's Manchester United being hammered at Newcastle and being hammered at Southampton the week after. And Alex picked them all up. If that happens to you in a tournament, it's over. It's gone.
How if you're getting paid all that money and this is your thing, you're the best, the creme de la creme, this is your thing. How can you freeze at that moment?
Because
this is what you've been...
all sport, not just football, all sport is up here. And if you get scared, you're in real problems.
What, the entire team suddenly got scared?
Well, what you need is the right people to pick them up and lead them. And actually, on that day in time, they got scared.
They all feed off one another, and you know, maybe they need a mentor. I'm quite happy to. Well, first of all, I mentor Scotland. First.
Well, you've got a much harder job to do there, even than England.
I'm up for it.
Talking about people getting scared. Let's get one thing straight. This nation did not vote to leave Europe. It voted to leave the European Union, a body that showed itself unable to accept any sort of real reform, failed to spot at how much of a risk of Brexit they were, failed to handle the migrant crisis, failed with the single currency. Just look at what happened to Greece, and up to 2007, failed to file accurate accounts for more than 10 years. Now, provided the right people are the architects of the new look Britain, and that, friends, is my real concern, things should be fine in time.
I tend to agree with you, Nick.
Wow, we've got there.
No, we have got there. I think there's a lot of things wrong with the European Union. But, you know, we don't live in a perfect world, and I think we all have to work together. I'm scared for the future, for the normal people, for the working class people, the jobs, inward investment. I'm worried about business. And I don't think that it's going to be all sorted out within the next number of years. I think it's going to be 10-plus years. And
that's pessimistic.
Remember, we begged to be in the EU, and we've lived in a relatively peaceful EU as well. And I fear for the security of our country, and I fear for business as well.
And the rest of the world is looking at us and thinking we're nuts. You know, we're a little island stuck on the edge of Europe, and they're thinking we're mad. And who's on our side? Donald Trump and Putin. And you think, if that's who's on your side, you'll be... And Le Pen. I mean, seriously, to the rest of the world, it looks a bizarre decision.
But
that's not the case.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. You've got other countries in the EU, for example, that are even stronger against leaving the EU. I think France, for example, is one.
No, it's a part of France.
It's a bit of France.
It's a bit of France.
No, Michelle is right, because you'll all know what the Visegrad Group is, and if you don't know the Visegrad Group, I can explain what it is. It's a trading bloc that the EU allows to continue. It comprises Slovakia, Poland, the Czech Republic and Hungary. And you've already got Austria and Spain seeking to join that, and they're holding a meeting in Vienna. So you might even have a splintering joining, as I say, this Visegrad group. So Michelle is right. Let me just ask you this before I come back to you.
That's why it's going to be different.
Why did you vote leave? Was it sovereignty? Just briefly.
No, my preferred option was to be in a reformed EU, because I don't believe that the EU was fit for purpose.
Thank you.
And I debated and wrestled and I listened to everyone. All of the Remainers were saying, we will stay within the EU and we will reform it. And then I heard Juncker, I think it was the day before the referendum, turn around and go, nah, there will be no more reforms, there will be no more negotiations, it is what it is. And I thought, you know what, you just sealed the deal for me. Simple as that.
And Greg, and I said this before, in a way, people like Juncker, Donald Tusk, they were architects in part of this, as you call it, catastrophe. Fair?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, it's a bureaucratic institution where the bureaucrats never change voluntarily, and there was a need for more change. There was a need for pressure, but you didn't have to leave to get change.
But the change wasn't coming.
Can I just say, look, I always agree with Greg. I agree with Greg again. You know, the EU is a bureaucratic nightmare. Nobody is denying that. But at the end of the day, so is the UN. You know, so is NATO. That is the nature of these institutions.
But the UN
and wait, let me finish.
No.
Well, it kind of does. Let me finish. So, if we look at, let's say, the trade deals, so we now have to renegotiate something like 56 trade deals on top of whatever we're going to decide and agree with the EU itself. We don't even have enough trade negotiators to begin that process.
Here comes this negativity.
It's not negativity. It's about looking at the reality of the situation we find ourselves in.
Answer the central point.
And it's grave. It's not easy.
2 words. I always like giving quick questions.
Go on.
Answer the central point. Failing institution.
I wouldn't say failing institution. It's
so why the increasing unrest?
An institution that needs reform.
But Nick,
and no one ever said that wasn't the case.
If you look at the polls amongst the people who voted out, the top thing was sovereignty.
Yeah.
Right.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
The second one was immigration. We could have done something about immigration. We could have. No, but we could in the discussion in the internal.
Now, I think if you tried. I think
but if we're going to end up doing a deal, with the EC, you know what's going to happen? We're going to accept that, some of the outers have already said, we'll accept the same level of freedom of movement of labour.
If you notice what Theresa May said this morning, it was very interesting. She said, whatever deal is done, we'll not be able to settle for the same level of migration hitherto seen. So is there going to be some kind of yield to set some kind of deal?
It might be worse.
Fine.
If we end up having to sign up to Schengen, it could be a lot worse. If we end up like a Norway system...
But Nick, the reason so many kids... Younger people, they're not kids, but they're younger than me. Younger people voted to stay in. Is that movement of labour? That's what their life has been. They can get a job in France or a job in Portugal.
Michelle, you're making it sound like we're going to put up border posts.
I know, this is what I don't understand. It's
tell me what you're going to do in Ireland, then.
We've come out of a political union. Yeah, I agree that is a problem. We've come out of a political union.
They decide to stay.
But these young kids, they can still travel. They can still apply for jobs. They can still move. No one's suddenly put a fence up and locked it.
We don't know what terms. We don't know what terms. You know, I lived and worked in America for 8 years. That was not an easy process to get the relevant paperwork. So the wonderful thing about the EU system was we could move as if you were moving to Manchester. That's gone now. So for young people...
Well, it hasn't gone yet.
No, but in 20
I agree. It's
in 20 years' time, all these people who vote, or the vast majority of people who vote to go out will be gone, because they won't be. They'll be like me. They'll be, they'll either be in the home or they'll be gone. And the generation who wanted this
and who
wanted this movement of labour, to whom that's their world, they're going to be sitting and looking at you, and they're going to be saying,
and you.
No, they won't be sitting looking at me saying, what have you done? They should be sitting looking at themselves and going, why can't I be bothered to vote? So don't put it on me, by the way.
Let's get Michelle. What's going to happen in Scotland? Is there an appetite for another referendum?
I hope not. They want to remain within the EU as well. But I want us to be part of the United Kingdom.
But I think Scotland, only 50% or something. Wasn't it only a turnout of about 50% in this EU referendum vote?
No. It was a turnout.
I thought it was about 50% on this
60-something.
I do keep meeting people who voted out who were really shocked when they went out, and I'm not sure they've done the right thing.
There's a lot of buyer's remorse. There's a lot of buyer's remorse.
I think the most serious thing here is if you own a business as well. And that's the scary thing here. None of us know what's going to change. None of us know what's going to happen.
Look,
and if the people who have come into our country, if they leave, our country collapses.
Michelle, you quite rightly and understandably talk about running businesses and your experience there. I get it. Tell me what would happen if you'd failed to file accounts for 10 years.
Well, you won't be trading.
Again, listen, I see your
You'd probably
point,
be behind
but listen,
bars.
No,
Yeah,
but we
you'll
all,
be trading.
we all accept it's a bureaucratic
But they
nightmare.
won't accept. But they won't. It is a failing institution because they will not accept
no one
reform.
says
Come on, Nick.
perfect.
What we've had, and
But
we've
on
had
balance-
a media, we've had a press, not a media, a press.
Yeah, hammered it.
Who for 10 years
Yeah.
have gone on about bananas and blah. blah,
You've been
and
part
everything.
of that
Yeah,
press.
yeah, I
And
have,
actually,
yeah.
they've set up a culture that says this thing's a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
And that is, and a lot of people believe that, and they're actually wrong.
Yeah.
There are disadvantages to it, but there are also massive advantages.
Well, here comes an advantage, because if there's one thing we've learnt from all this, time and tide waits for no man.
I didn't really mean to hurt you. I didn't want to see us go. You nearly cried. 'Cause if I could turn back time, if I could find a way, I'd take back those words that split the UK and we stay. If I could reach those stars, I'd give it back to the EU. And then you love me like you never used to do.
Well, that's one party leader who is departing. Another party leader who might be departing is, of course, Jeremy Corbyn. One-word answers, team. What's the future for Jeremy Corbyn? Greg, can I come to you first?
Got to go.
Got to go.
Just a matter of time.
Michelle?
Probably got to go, but I don't think he will. He thinks he's there, the voice of the people.
Oh, wow, that's a worry, isn't it?
Has to go. It's disgusting what he's doing. He must leave.
Michelle?
absolutely, he's tearing his party to shreds. He has to go.
Well, that's pretty definitive. Bad luck, Jeremy, if you're watching. That's it from us. And, gone. Finished. Finished. That's it. And that's over for our Brexit special. But no doubt we'll be disagreeing about these issues for some time yet. Send us a tweet saying which of us you think got it right, otherwise known as Nick and Michelle, or wrong. Or if there's something we should be debating on this topic or any other. More Straight Talking next week.
Hi, I hear it's all kicking off a bit down in London. I'm in Scotland, attending my daughter's graduation from Edinburgh University. But I will be back next week, and I will see you again on The Pledge.